All right, Shalom, Kal Halal Yamla, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rukaha Kodash, double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Shalom and salutations to the elect scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. All right, as you can see here, this article reads Airports set to scrap boarding passes and check ins in major travel shakeup. Boarding passes and traditional check ins are set to be abolished as part of the most significant overhaul of the aviation industry in half a century. Passengers will soon be able to upload passport details to their smartphones and pass seamlessly through airports using only facial recognition technology under the proposal by the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO. The ICAO, a UN United Nations body that sets global aviation policy, is introducing a new digital travel credential that will allow travelers to store and verify their passport information on their mobile devices. Yeah, and this is, good news. Not good news in the sense of, conveniency, but in the sense of, getting closer, to that MOTB, CHIP, prophecy written in Revelation 13, chapter 13, verse 16, right? Because this will further push that system. This will remove also the contact of, let's say, human interaction as well. It will remove certain jobs in the airports. It allows machine, to do, the role that it will be doing with the MOTB, right? Because if facial recognition is going to be used, that's one key thing that's going to be used in the beast system, right? The system that, these Edomites foresee to be successful, but will not be successful, as thus said Yahweh Shem El Shai, right? And also we use phones, in our left or right hand. The prophecy speaks about an implant in your left or right hand and also an implant in your head as well, right? So holding up, as if there was an important part here, it says so it says to able to upload passport details to their smartphones and pass seamlessly through airports using facial recognition technology. So the smartphone part, pretty much hold up your smartphone with whichever information of your passport and it'd probably be a barcode, a QR code type thing, but that will then be transitioned into the MOTB, the small rice grain, technology, that can store all of this information and make it much more easier. It's the ultimate convenience. The MOTB, it has an ultimate convenience to the life that people live today. And these people are sheeple. They're not in tune with Yahweh Shem El Shai. They're not in tune with, the spiritual aspects of their soul. Speaking to you so-called Negroes, Native Americans and Hispanics, first and foremost, you're far from your power. So something like this will just seem like conveniency to you and seem like just a new iPhone or the new device or moving with the times, right? So it will be easily transitioned, removing the boarding passes and all of that procedure to going to the airport and transitioning that into the MOTB, the Neuralink, the Synchron. There's a new Black Mirror season, and they were showing that little device that they put to the head. But Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates, they already have these devices, implementing and implanting them into limbless paralyzed individuals, right? And it will not only be for them, it will also be for, able-bodied people, functioning normally, wanting to, have that Black Mirror experience while also being connected to this type of system, the beast system where they can pay for things, where they can pull up certain information by just scanning the device on their head, you know, right? Likewise, the RFID, CHIP. So the first precept I have is Revelation chapter 12, verse 12, when it says, "Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time." So Esau knows that his time is running out. Esau is a so-called white man today, the red man, which he's not white. There's no human being on the earth that is the color white. White represents purity, holiness, cleanness, you know, separateness, godliness, and he's far from that. He's actually closer to the vibration of the color black. He's dark, evil, wicked, sinister. You know, he's messy, man. You throw the color black on something and it will be sure to, you know, let me not even give it that example, because the color itself is not a bad color, because black is one of my favorite colors. However, the vibration tied to it in this world, using English, this bastard language, Esau put a certain vibration on it, you know. And in the nighttime, in the darkness, it has that vibration too. People tend to be more scared in the dark, which it resembles the color black. However, kind of going off topic, he knows, man. This devil, this red man knows that his time is coming to an end, right? So he's speeding things up. What is he gonna try to speed up? He's trying to speed up. Let me go to Revelation chapter 13, the next chapter, and I'll read verse 16. This goes into the article that I just read, and it says, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads," right? So it's going to cause all human beings on the planet Earth to comply and insert this device into their body, so they can continue living in this society, so they can continue traveling state to state by vehicle, traveling from different countries by airplane, you know, going on cruises, going to the hospital, going to supermarkets, going to restaurants, everyday things that people have at their disposal in Babylon, right? Going to parties, you will be required to have this device to buy or sell, to enjoy the things that you're able to enjoy now without this device. That's what's gradually happening, and this is going to be something that's going to come to pass. However, it's not going to be fulfilled to the point of, you know, to the point of what Esau wants, As soon as this thing kicks off, the real way is fully implemented, it won't be very long until the missiles hit. You're going to have Jacob's trouble, before and after this process. And then, we're going to have World War III, where all hell breaks loose, all, Slovakia, where you're going to have the so-called hellfire, which it's not going to be actual, hell under the ground. Is going to be the condition that the earth is going to be in, burning, people dying of fire and the elements of the fire, and and the missiles, destroying all of the world that is on the earth, which is Babylon, all these buildings, the wicked 2/3 and heathen that are allotted to be destroyed, However, let's go on. It says, verse 17, "And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name." Right. So all of these things coincide, because these people today in Babylon, they buy, they take heed to the philosophies, the name, of Babylon, right? they They believe in these different doctrines and ideologies and laws and decrees and ways of life of these Babylonians. They take heed unto it, so they have the that's the name. It's going into the name of the beast. And Slakia verse 18 says, "Here is wisdom. Let him that had understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man," the devil himself, Esau, Edom, "and his number is 600 But let's go back to the word mark, just to get some more edification. Anyone listening to this by now should understand what the word mark means. And it's not to be, pushed to the side and, you know, there's the vibration that Hebrew and root words and stuff like that is not important is an evil vibration to be pushing in these times, especially if you deem yourself a watchman of Yahweh Shemel Shai. So the word mark is karagma.
Strong's G 5480. Charagma. Charagma.
Right, charagma, all right? So it goes a stamp, an imprinting mark, a mark stamped on the foreheads or the right hand of the badge of the followers of the Antichrist, right? There's many Antichrists. Anyone that's not for Yahweh Shemel Shai, that does not believe in Yahweh Shai, is an Antichrist. And does not call on the names of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, is an Antichrist. B says, the second example, the mark branded upon a horse. The second, example is thing carved, sculpture, graven work. So that's the times that we're in right now. It's something that will be cut into your flesh, surgically with an instrument, a syringe type instrument, syringe type instrument, right? And it is idolatrous, of idolaters, because why I say that is because these people, are fully bought into, Esau's philosophy, the image of the beast, really what I was going into. If I didn't say that earlier, that's what I was referring to, the philosophies and so on and so forth, these ways, his way of life, pretty much. So when you go into the root word of karagma, it goes into karax. And karax is the instrument that's used to implant this device. That's how, deep and plain Yahweh Shemel Shai has made this prophecy. He put it into the blue letter, in the Strong's root words. These things are constructed for the prophets to preach and teach to you people and explain plainly, for those that will hear, those that are allotted to hear in this time. So it says, Salakia.
Strong's G 5482. Charax.
Charax, right? So it says a pale or stake, a palisade, or rampart, pales between which earth, stones, trees, timbers are heaped and packed together. So let's see what a pale is, right? Let's just see what a pale is real quick. I'll get back to this before I close. Let's see. Say, or steak. Salakia. It's with a pointed edge here. Used to dig into stuff. Right? Let me do it like this. Esau, with his fuckery, man. Just show me what I'm looking for. Right, so they're showing, who is supposed to be, Yahushai. She doesn't, on the cross with, a sharp instrument going through his hand. So you can see here, pointed stakes. So it's a pointed, sharp instrument. The word goes back to that. So it's referring to a surgical instrument, right? Pretty much. You know, get the point, right? It's not hard to see if the spirit is dealing with you. The spirit of truth. You know, and when you go, so okay, let me take it back to this. So it's a sharp instrument, right? Pointy instrument. Used to cut into. And it's referring to. Let me show you. I could just do this. Syringe. Slovakia. That's why I missed the. So there you go. This device right here. And it resembles that pale steak. Sharp instrument. So what happens is they use that device to, do the implantation of the device, right? So when you go into that word, Karax, the root word goes into, it relates to the whole airport, overhaul of, the boarding passes and the checking in system. This goes into the information, right? So on the RFID C-hip, you know, the device that will be implanted in your right hand or your left hand, it goes into information, and the word is grapho.
Strong's G 1125. Grapho.
Grapho in the Greek. It says to write with reference to the form of the letter, to delineate or form letters on a tablet, parchment, paper, or other material. And it explains it more. To write with reference to the contents of writing, right? It says to commit to writing things not to be forgotten. So your passport information is things that are not to be forgotten. Your driver's license, your medical information, right? Your record, your life record, everything that is needed in this life. Your social security number in social security number in Canada, Salaki in America, and your social insurance number, your SIN number in Canada, and in the States you have the social security number. All of those things, which are not to be forgotten, will be stored on that device. When people are walking into airports, they're just gonna wave their hand at whatever device it is, and it's gonna pull up everything, and the facial recognize them or scan the brain hip in their head, or BMI, brain machine interfaces that are very common now. You're not gonna just know that someone has a BMI or BCI, brain computer interface. You're not gonna know. So to commit to writing things not to be forgotten, write down, record. So this is information that's gonna be recorded, and stored on these devices. So that this system is gonna quickly, you know, you know, um, quickly transition over into the MOTB. That's the whole point. They do things gradually. So before closing, just gonna read this again. It says, yes, International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, is proposing significant changes to air travel that will eliminate the need for traditional boarding passes and check-in. This overhaul aims to streamline airport process by using facial recognition technology, digital travel credentials. It says the new system would allow travelers to pass through airport using only their face and a digital pass, which digital pass will be on a phone for now, and also, as I said, implemented, transitioned into the C-hip, in the left or right hand, potentially eliminating the need for physical documents. That's the whole point. The overhaul, first reported by the Times, could begin rolling out next 2 or 3 years. In the next 2 to 3 years. So, he has his agenda 2030. You know, um, and everything is speeding up. So Kahalaliyam la Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. As always, all praise, honor, and glory goes to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rukaha Kodash, Abad Babal, Shalom to the elect.